Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Bishop and Professor Drew. This last segment, I wanted to get a little bit of this talking to buzzers out there. That was really tough news to see in terms of Mickey Allen. We've had him on the show. We had him when they announced the 40 series, or I-69, I think it was, series between Alabama A&M and Tennessee State. And then in the offseason, we got some significant news when you talk about Jackson State getting back on the schedule, renewing rivalries with FAMU. So in terms of the fan base, what I thought a lot of folks would be happy about, and what we've heard thus far, they have been excited about renewing those matchups and what they mean for everybody. But we got the news that the coaches, 6 coaches, sent a letter to the president that was a no confidence letter signed by no less than 6 TSU head coaches. So it could have been more. And this was put out in the media. So I would say leaked to the media. So this was not something they thought was just going to be enough to make sure. The 6 coaches included the men's basketball coach, Nolan Smith, who we all know won the regular season OVC, the tournament OVC, really brought a lot of good spotlight to Tennessee State. First time Tennessee State had won the OVC since back in the 90s, I guess it was. In terms of when they did it then, a long time ago. Put it that way. You also had the football coach, Reggie Barlow, in his second season. Nolan was in his second season as well. Women's basketball coach, Candace Dupree. Track coach, legend that ran at Tennessee State, Chandra Cheeseborough. A volleyball coach, Danica Sutton. The softball coach, in terms of Janae McGrath, 2 E's there. And like you said, there's at least 6, so it could have been more. Some of the concerns that talked about in the letter, quote, the only statement I would make at the stage is that we are aware of the concerns raised by the coaches, and we make these things very seriously, end quote, Tucker said. That's the president, for those that may not be aware. Quote, we will be reviewing the concerns, and that's pretty much all I can talk about right now, end quote. Quote, the vote of no confidence is not rooted in personal grievance, but rather in a collective belief that the department can and should operate at a higher standard consistent with the values, missions, and potential of Tennessee State University, end quote, the letter reads. So it could be a vehicle that they're going through VP of Athletics, Dr. Mickey Allen, towards more concerns in terms of the president of the board in terms of that. But there was some questions about resource allocations. Folks that may not be aware, Tennessee State has a top 3 budget in terms of HBCU sports. So revenue that they spent is pretty high. So that's interesting when you kind of factor that in. But several concerns included inconsistent communication, the lack of operational transparency, uneven allocation of resources and support among programs, lack of excuse me here as I muscle through this myself. Lack of clear departmental vision, structure, and accountability. So that's tough to read from a department. The letter also outlined concerns about the direction of the athletic department as well as proper support across several programs at Tennessee State. Additionally, there were issues about collaboration on the well-being of student athletes. Allen was hired by the president, Glenn Glover, back in 2020 to replace the retiring Teresa Phillips. Based on what you've read, maybe some of your resources that you have out there, Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of the magnitude of this with at least 6 coaches? I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in the history that not just HBCUs, but sports in general.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this with regards to sports. And normally when I see it, a vote of no confidence, I normally see it associated with a university president. And I guess for me, outside looking in, that sort of is not intimate. But this is really intimate. Or when you're talking about a specific department, that is highlighting we don't have transparency, lack of vision. Those are kind of buzzwords that are puzzling, at least on the surface, in terms of what is it that you're looking for? Are you what is the overriding sort of concern? Is it especially when you start talking about I think the term that they used was lack of a clear department vision. That was something that kind of, that really kind of stuck out. Like, wow, what? I mean, is it a conference thing that they're, I'm not sure. Is it something, in terms of the competition, the conference that they're playing in, or we've seen Tennessee State, I think, over the past couple of years, get more involved in terms of playing more HBCUs, and it seems to fire up the fan base. So I don't know, what the particular vision part is that they're looking for.
Yeah, that's good stuff. To your point, Eddie George, when he was coach, one of the things that took place then, that was when OVC was losing a lot. They've kind of balanced themselves out. He talked about it being a dying conference.
Yeah.
Now they still have the partnership with Big South in terms of football, and they brought in some Division II programs. And so it seems like they've kind of wavered through that. Maybe some people still have some concerns, but you're right. It's fascinating when you try to read that. And the earlier point that you made in terms of vote of no confidence, you're right that the intimacy of this is so different than we see when it's a president or a chancellor. And usually that's the faculty.
Yeah.
From the faculty. And when it's a president and chancellor, you can see how there could be some distance. And that's usually they're voting because they're not getting what they believe is shared governance, which also is fascinating to me that there is some coaches that are whoever may be leading this or two that maybe that they've had some conversation with or seen that take place with the faculty senate type of things. Now we're seeing a lot of faculty senates in this current environment be dissipated in terms of new state policies that eradicate them or create a different form. So that's fascinating to see that coaches understand that or at least have been around it. So somebody may have seen it before. So you're right. There's so many questions here. And you certainly could understand why Dr. Mickey Allen didn't make a statement. This may not be a time to do that, but it would have been intriguing to see his perspective. If nothing else, to you, again, Charles, how much in his mind maybe this was blindsided, that he, did he see it and could understand it, and he's like, hey, I'll make some corrective action? Or would his comments kind of allude to saying that he really didn't see it, that he felt that there were good relations coming to it? I've seen him with post games, whatever, around coaches, and I hadn't seen anything that would throw you off. So that's fascinating for me too. Let me go to you, AD Drew. Your thoughts. Have you covering sports, being a part, coaching, refereeing, administrative type roles in terms of what you do in communications at various places now? Or how have you seen anything like this in athletics?
Only one time.
Okay.
And this happened during the pandemic, when you had a lot of difference in opinions on what you needed to do. When we as a society had a lot of confusion about the
Yeah.
science and everything that was going on out there, and programs were in the should we compete, should we not compete, uh what do we need to do to compete, what safety measures do we need to compete. That is the only time that I seen anything close to this, where you see, basically, for lack of a better word, the coaches rebel against their leader. That is and I'm not gonna call out the institution where I saw that at, but that's the only time
Can
that
you tell Can you tell us what level?
this was actually at the NAIA level.
Okay.
So, but regardless of the level, that's the only time I ever seen something like this happen. And in that case, the athletic director was ultimately removed, let go, whatever you want to do. What I find concerning about this, though, Dr. Cavil, you're talking 6 coaches. You only have
He
nine,
said he said at least six. So you're right.
at
Maybe
least
more.
6. Wait a minute. You only have 9 coaches on staff, Dr. Cavil,
Ooh.
because some of these people coach multiple sports. You have 9 coaches. 6 of them have, at least 6 have signed this letter. One of those sports that I'm talking about, Dr. Cavil, is not even a full-time varsity sport, being ice hockey. So that's at least 6 out of 8 coaches who could have signed this letter, or on record to have signed this letter. 5 of those 6 coaches you have hired.
Oh wow.
Let's think about that.
I didn't think about that.
These are people who you vetted, unless these were forced hires by higher ups, and we do know that happens in athletics sometimes. But you may get forced 1 coach upon you. You're not going to get forced 5 coaches on you. And I'm wondering if part of this, because Dr. Allen has been around a long time, is part of this the result of the changing landscape of college athletics with the transfer portal,
Yeah.
with the NIL, and the
Yeah.
response to that changing landscape, what the coaches are seeing and what they think that their needs are,
A lot of
versus
pocket watch.
what the athletic director and his higher ups think that the needs are. And there are disconnects with it. I'm just gonna be real, but you usually don't see a disconnect where the ocean is this wide with everything. One last thing that's concerning about this, Dr. Cavil,
Mm-hmm.
all your revenue sports, football, men's and women basketball, signed off on this. And 4 of the 6 coach women's sports, which gets you into Title IX. When you see when I saw resource allocation, and I looked back and saw that a lot of these were women's sports.
Buzzword. Yeah.
So it's this is where somebody has got to put out that 90-day action plan, and you have got to make some serious corrections, outsource things, call in the consultants, do what you need to do, or it's going to be for lack of a better word, this could turn into a shit show.
Want to acknowledge Sneaker Shop Talk, Tennessee State alum. I appreciate him for chiming in such a difficult time. He did put out there in lieu of recent news, TSU news. I want everyone to know I am okay. He didn't laugh about it. And he also provided an update here. He said reportedly the athletic budget decreased, and that was a screw point for the coaches. So part of that, I'm sure, as I saw in the report, that their enrollment has decreased too, pretty significant, by over 1,000 students. So
and that
is a
means you're not
challenge.
getting that student activity fee.
Yeah, that's always a challenge there too. So to your point, what does that do with your student athletic fee? So that's different when I heard that. So I wanted to kind of acknowledge that and appreciate Snicker Shop for sharing that perspective. So
Are these coaches designed to go to the SWAC? I mean, let's just put it out there. You think that's not part of it too? They want to go play in the SWAC or the MEAC?
Or the MEAC?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I can see it two ways. I mean, because they said they're not resource allocated, and this is one thing that I got in some dialogue with A&T. And one thing I said at the very beginning, I wasn't really sharing one way or the other whether Hampton and or A&T should make the move to the Colonial Athletic Association. Obviously, I know they have changed their name, but when they made the move, they were there. And part of the thing I would always talk about is be careful that you'll become a Tennessee State. And what I was saying about that was not just the losing, but the losing from how I've studied athletics, and you can even look at Mississippi Valley State, has a direct correlation in terms of the money that you put into the program. And while a lot of those teams in the CIA have left, when they first went in there, it was a huge gap in terms of what those programs were putting in their sports. And even if you can hire great coaches that are able to nimble, you have an athletic director that is really good about, spending every dollar to stretch it. That's a significant gap when you talk about being able to compete. And usually the coaches get the blame. Some alums will stand up and try to put more money into it. Others frustrated because they never wanted to leave in the first place. So you really have a lot of challenge going on there. And you have that at Tennessee State. You have a group of function at C being in the OVC puts them a part of the SWAC in terms of, the measurables and starting rating and everything, although they're losing. And what is the benefit of that? And this is before now you're getting all this news about where the SWAC has really become, in terms of the finances and broadcast, one of the top programs. I was watching a guy on Tennessee State that did a program that really did some good information of breaking this down in terms of, talking about the SWAC and different other areas where HBCU programs with a lot of focus on Tennessee State of what they need to do. And all his components in some fashion talked about the commitment of resources, revenue. So I say that's a long way to go about saying I can see coaches saying, if we're not going to commit the resources, let's go somewhere where we could either have a better opportunity competing with other schools that have similar resources. So I can see it from that perspective, whether it's the MEAC or the SWAC in terms of that. And when I'm saying resources, I'm talking about individual institutions committing resources and similar enrollment. Obviously, the mission and the culture is there. But now you're talking about the influx of money that's going into the SWAC. And so those resources are increasing. So even in the SWAC, if you don't commit those resources and you're fighting against your peer institutions, let's just name the ones that you put on the schedule in football: Alabama A&M, FAMU, Jackson State, that are committing significant resources compared to, maybe the bottom quarter of the teams in the SWAC. Are you going to be competitive in the SWAC?
Yeah.
It's not an automatic thought process, but I can see coaches believing that you would have a better chance. So yes, I could see from that perspective. My question is, what are the alumni going to say? Mm-hmm. They've been asking for leadership from the AD and the president about committing resources so they could be more competitive. Those that wanted to stay in the OVC, obviously the ones that are looking to go to a conference with HBCUs, whether the SWAC or the MEAC, a lot of them talking about the SWAC. they still going to want them to commit the resource. So to me, that's a fascinating and a good question a statement that you put out there, AD Drew, and then Charles, in regards to asking the question, could that be part of the dilemma? Be interesting to see. Snicker Shop Talk.com, the independent show is scheduled for tomorrow. Hopefully they can pull it up, because I'm sure that there'll be a big focus, you would think, on that show.
They got content.
Yeah, in regards. And folks that are in that independent. So not only from a Tennessee State perspective, which will probably drive this show, but this is a time to tune in to the HBCU Sports Lab independent division, because now all of these folks are probably going to get their perspective in terms of their independent status as HBCUs, obviously for Hampton and A&T, members of the Colonial, and Tennessee State, members of the OVC, and in football, partnership with the Big South. And when you talk about women's sports, those are sports that you can be competitive in. But if you're not providing the resources, the gap can be huge. I think the volleyball team, did they win games this year? Softball team has struggled in terms. And so for them, they're getting beat up of not being competitive, but a lot of them may be saying part of this is we really don't have the resources to be competitive. So that can be quite frustrating as a coach, trying to explain all this and deal with that.
Sure.
Here's my question. Have you been a coach? Have you been in the room with a lot of coaches? I see this ice hockey team here. We know ice hockey is not a cheap sport. And you're trying to start up this hockey team. It does not count against our anything NCAA, but it's probably eating up athletic budget, since you see it listed on the athletic website. Maybe if I'm one of those coaches, I'm like, why the hell are we wasting this money on ice hockey? Especially if I don't see it's getting ready to start up. We thought it was supposed to be online by now.
Yep.
But it's not online. And I'm struggling over here. Get rid of them. They not doing nothing for us, and reallocate that money to us.
Yeah, because they just got a nominal part of the startup fee to help start it, but it wasn't enough to even get it started.
It's just like Dr. Cavil, you in education. It's just like those grants that we write. Yeah. You write the grant
in the coal mine.
And what's the one thing that they always ask at the end of the grant? Sustainability. Once this 3-year grant runs out, will you be able to maintain this program or sustain this program? And that happens to a lot of us.
Yeah, I think, and I'll let you have your last thoughts there, Charles. I saw a comment that talked about that Edwin Moore was shocked any coach other than maybe a very popular football coach and men's basketball coach would risk putting their name out in public about the ball. I would say that was true, but I think with all of them doing it together, it gets more challenging than just one or two individuals, regardless if it's football and basketball. And you got football and basketball to come with you. So that creates a much safer space. And if they're struggling as much as we're saying, I think they're at the point that I'm dead in terms of a head coach. Either way, either my record is going to put me in a position where I can't make an argument. Even if I put this out, they're trying to say, hey, we need the support to even give me a chance to show whether I'm good or not. And some of these, they have struggled. I mean, let's put it frank. When you talk about the OVC, I saw somebody that did a petition to move them out of the OVC right around the COVID time, when there was talk that there was an invitation for Tennessee State to join the SWAC at the very beginning. Ultimately, they did move forward with it. Bethune-Cookman was the benefactor of it and made sure that they let it know that they were ready to come and join with FAMU. So that was huge, and who knows, it could have been all three of them. Then you add the fourth one. But when they put that out there, they were talking about maybe 5 or 6 championships over the last some 30 years. I'm talking about all sports combined.
Yeah.
Had 2 in basketball. I think this one was the 3rd one.
Yeah.
Had 2 in football, and of the 2, 1 or 2 of those were Johnny Cole, which was pulled from them. I think when I looked at it, they've only finished second in those sports like once or twice.
Even the last championship
volleyball
was
championship,
shared.
I think 1 or 2. You got a couple of track championships. No softball. I mean, so you haven't even been competitive for the most part over the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And these coaches are just feeling the grind, and they got to the point where it wasn't making sense. And that I wonder, you think about this though. How good of a coach is Nolan Smith? if he's doing this with little resources.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then I kind of come back to the intimacy part of it. I mean, to me, there's a disconnect when you're talking about, you know, the president of a university gets no confidence. Well, but like, how do I come back and kind of look at my immediate boss in the eye after I've, you know, made this public? I do not have confidence in his vision. So it's kind of has to make for a weird work environment.
Charles, how do I come back and have you work for me as a subordinate?
Yeah, exactly.
Knowing that you have given me a vote of no confidence. Not only you, but my whole doggone department. I could deal with one of y'all being out there in left field.
Right.
I can't deal with the whole team out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, you go dismiss everybody. Contracts regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough situation.
Carlos had to sign at least a 4 or 5 year contract. Smith, didn't he just get a new contract?
I thought so.
Yeah. And it's too late in the hiring cycle to get rid of everybody. So you know you're gonna have to put up with it for another year.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, this is deeper than you think when you really start to pull the onion back.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. I do wish Tennessee State the best, coaches and Dr. Mickey Allen as well. This has to be tough. His wife is a Tennessee State alum. I believe his brother as well. That has to be tough when you talk about family and extended family. So a lot of pride out there for the Tennessee State Tigers. Go Big Blue.
Yeah.
So wish them the well in terms of doing whatever's necessary to get this train. And this is obviously behind some other tough news they had. And it seemed like they had righted the ship in terms of turning that around. And the state has just continued to do what it does. So again, literally prayers for all involved, and just as much the institution, including the college athletes that have to deal with this too.